Okay, hello, I'm Linda, and I'm going to tell you something about my life and my strengths and weaknesses that brought me here, and how I've gained through ACA, and how I feel better about myself because of ACA. Okay, first I have to read page 142. ACA's third step typifies our spiritual approach to the disease of family dysfunction. In ACA, we view our compulsive thinking and dependent behavior as a spiritual dilemma rather than a mental illness. We have no quarrel with science and medicine, which have made greater strides in mapping and studying the brain. Such clinical work is of great importance in understanding human behavior and brain function. We freely use such clinical labels as depression, panic disorder, bipolar, dissociation, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Some ACA members have been diagnosed as multiple personalities and as schizophrenics. We do not believe our brains are missing any elements. We start with the premise that we are whole and that we had a normal reaction to an abnormal situation of being raised in a dysfunctional home. Our normal reaction to protect ourselves has created survival traits, compulsions, and self-harming behaviors which respond to the ACA steps and spiritual remedies. We are not minimizing the severity of our situation as adult children. The disease of family dysfunction manifests itself in dependency, addiction, and disassociation personalities. The disease can kill. Every day, adult children commit suicide, die in addiction, or die one day at a time in silent isolation, thinking they are hopeless. In ACA, we believe we were born whole and became fragmented in body, mind, and spirit through abandonment and shame. We need help finding a way to return to our miracle state. Whatever mental diagnosis we seek a higher power in prayer and ACA meetings to relieve our chronic nature of feeling different. We believe God understands the root of mental health labels and freely offers help to those seeking God's love and light. We believe in a spiritual solution for the disease of family dysfunction. So that was the introduction to reading mental health. Okay, I'm going to talk about codependence and boundaries. Okay. People with codependent traits often struggle with boundaries because they focus on other people and their problems, caretaking, helping, fixing. As a result, they often neglect their own needs and undervalue themselves. They prioritize the needs of others above their own. It is a trait that hinders a person from having healthy, mutually satisfying relationships. Dependent personality disorder can affect a person's quality of life in relationships. Five core symptoms of codependence: lack of self-esteem and self-love, lack of setting functional boundaries, lack of owning your own reality, lack of addressing one's adult needs and wants, and lack of being moderate or contained. Okay, codependents are constantly looking out. We're constantly looking outside for love, affirmation, attention from people that cannot provide it. I believed I was not worthy of love or attention. The codependent is driven by childhood fear and distorted thinking known as para-alcoholism. We chose dependent people who abandon us and lack clarity in their own lives. what our parents said and how they treated us, taught us to be dependent, then blamed us for being dependent. They undermined our reality by telling us how we should think and feel when we objected to their treatment of us. They projected their fears, suspicions, and sense of inferiority onto us. We absorbed our parents' fear and low self-worth, thinking these feelings originated with us. We were told, why can't you do this? I'm so ashamed of you. Why do you act like that? You must be the dumbest child in the world. We believed what they said about us was true, even when it wasn't. The main sign of codependency is consistently elevating the needs of others above your own. Codependent rupture, which creates an outward focus to gain love or affirmation, is created by a dysfunctional childhood. It is the same rupture among adult children of all family types. This soul rupture is the abandonment by parents or caregivers. My life experiences show me that I became codependent due to the emotional abandonment by my parents. Taking care of other family members was about the only thing I was praised for growing up. Cleaning, cooking, babysitting, get my dad a beer, dump the ashtray, bring him a pillow and a blanket because he might fall asleep, and so on. I learned to be a very responsible, resourceful, and dependable person. My dad was in the Navy. We moved 24 times in 18 years. Some years I went to school in 4 different states. Wherever my dad's ship was sent, we went. The ship was in dry dock in Bremerton, Washington for 3 months, we moved. Next, the ship went to Alameda, we moved. Then to San Diego, we moved. We moved each time. We lived in Navy housing usually. These were the projects. The public school was mostly military kids because it was close to the projects. I learned not to get too attached to friends where I lived in school, not to participate in school activities. We would be moving and I would not be able to complete the projects. Grades. When we were in California school, it was a review of what I had just done in the prior state. My relationship with my mother. Early adolescence. My mother would ask me why I was so hateful and mean. I would ask her the same thing. I was full of rage and pain. I wanted to hurt people's feelings. I trusted no one. If I got a compliment, I would insult them. I felt they were making fun of me. I didn't believe anyone. I was teased and my feelings jerked around so much, it was just easier to shut myself off from everyone. Fear and pain were normal in my childhood. That is familiar grounds for me, like alcohol was for my parents. I understand that feeling very well. It was something I learned from my mother. As I got older, I pushed her to the edge many times, as she had done to me. I was stronger than her now. It felt good to win. She would say to me, I never could control you. She would cry to my dad, hoping he would beat my ass, as she would request him to do. She was the victim. She would say, now apologize to me for hurting my feelings. Learn to get more and more callous and uncaring. My mother would tell anyone she thought was close to me or my friends how mean I was to her and how much I hurt her feelings. She would ask them if they treated their parents that way. Then she would throw that back in my face. This is why no one likes you. You have no friends because of the way you treat me. One day, I don't remember the cause of this outrage. She was holding me down on the bed when I was about 12, trying to slap me in the face. That was her favorite place to slap me. It was humiliating. So it made the hate rage inside me. It's a very insulting act. I was fighting her back, not hitting, but wrestling her to keep her away from slapping me in the face, trying to keep her, She was calling my dad to come in the bedroom, telling him she wanted me to come in the room to beat my ass. They both tried to hold me down. Now I'm wrestling both my parents. Finally, my dad just walked out. I think my dad thought he'd quit because it was a disgusting fight for him. Okay. In my adult personal relationships, I would choose friends and men that I felt I could help. I ended up with alcoholic friends. These relationships ended. I had a fear of being alone. I was so lonely. I went to Al-Anon to work on my relationship with my mother and my husband in 2015. My husband went back to South Carolina and my mother died. I wasn't getting anything out of Al-Anon. I told someone I just wanted to know why I kept picking the same people in my life. And someone told me to go to ACA. I never could understand a loving family. I envied that. I wanted that. Seeing mothers and daughters hug and kiss, I would look at them and wonder how that happened. Was that real? We all have a different reality. My reality with my mother was not love and kisses. My mother would give a light pseudo hug, not too tight. You see, she was delicate. You might mess up her hair or her clothes. She was a narcissist and a victim and had to look the part. For the adult child, pay often involves familiarity. My attraction to men were those that reminded me of my dad. I could remember thinking how to make him happy, fetch him the cold beer, run to the market, buy his beer and cigarettes, stuff the ashtray, make sure he had a pillow and a blanket so he would land on a comfortable spot when he falls asleep, aka passes out. Stay up all night, make sure fires aren't started by him dropping in a cigarette, and I did what I knew best. Before ACA, I blamed my bad choices in picking friends and partners when I felt I had no choice. My overpowering feelings ruled my life through compulsive obsessions. I was put in charge so my parents didn't have to be responsible, and I was not the drinker. I used compulsive feelings as drugs. If anything went wrong, I'm responsible. Now I'm responsible for my recovery, not other people. Okay, ACA boundaries. We can detach with love from our families and begin the gradual process of learning about boundaries. We live and let live. Separating from our families means setting healthy boundaries and removing ourselves from abusive situations and family crises, which are common for dysfunctional homes. The level of choice we develop in ACA is proportionate to the integrity of our boundaries. The more we let go, the stronger our boundaries become. Letting go creates stronger boundaries. Promptly admitting when I am wrong has paid big dividends for me in peace of mind. Learning that the response from others is almost always positive has also made it easier. As a child, I had no modeling for having stipulating or enforcing boundaries. I would allow children, family members, and others to use me to take advantage. I would do anything for others, then receive nothing in return. We do not know how to set boundaries. We let others interpret us. We accept more work without knowing how to say no appropriately. We get upset when people do things that affect us or our work without asking us first. We have high tolerance for workplace dysfunction and tend to stick it out in an unhappy job because we lack self-esteem to leave. Dreams, hopes, and desires represent a key step in separating us from the family. We separate from our unhealthy family in two levels. We can physically separate by moving away from them, setting healthy boundaries, or limiting contact. Okay, there are different types of boundaries, but their purposes are to allow us to remain safe, respected, and free from harm. All boundaries remind us that the feelings, behaviors, and attitudes of others are separate from our own. The feelings and thoughts of others are not our responsibility. We can feel empathy for another person and show compassion, but we are separate from the other person. One type of boundary is a statement or request that we communicate to someone. The statement is usually a request for particular behavior to cease or be modified. When we establish a boundary, we must be willing to follow through. We must honor our boundary even if others do not. For example, if we ask someone who is verbally abusive to us to stop the behavior in our presence, we must be willing to walk away if they remain abusive. We do not negotiate a boundary with the person. We avoid haggling over why he does not honor it. We state our boundary clearly and honor it for ourselves. Okay, boundaries help us take care of ourselves and tell the folks in our lives when we need to feel appreciated and held. Physical, how close do you want people to be? Do you want strangers or others touching you? And if it's okay, how much of a touch? Pat on the back, hug, holding your hand, it's your decision. Emotional, do you want others to tell you their sob stories? Verbal, honey, sweetheart, or crude names. ACA has taught me remove myself from the situation when necessary, or try to change the atmosphere if I feel I'm in a situation that makes me uncomfortable or reminds me of my past. I leave. Maybe walking into a room where someone is drunk, loud, looking for attention, I have entered a boundary. Don't go there. Danger. I'm rarely consumed by fear or hate anymore. I try to stay clear of places and people that take me back to my childhood. I have no problem apologizing if I hurt someone's feelings. I joke around a lot and sometimes I'm misunderstood. I can say I'm sorry when this happens. When I'm around people and see rage, I think they must have had a messed up life growing up. I could recognize it, but been there, done that. I remove myself. There's not much for me to say because I just cannot make a change for them, especially if they are under the influence. It is something they will have to come to on their own.
Linda, 5 minutes, Linda.
Okay, well, I'm done with all my papers and all of the stuff that I have suffered to prepare. So now I'm going to talk about another story in my life, and that was about remarrying after being divorced for 38 years. And I met someone that was just everything I could hope for. And he was from the South, and it was yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. He worked at Cedars. He was an OR nurse. And I worked in healthcare for 40 years and installed computer systems in the OR. So, you know, it was just, you know, everything was just really great. So in talking to him as time went by, I learned that he was everything that I had not remarried again, because of, like walking out of his house and leaving a wife with a 2-year-old child, because that's not where he wanted to be. So he moved on, and his, he'd be one of those guys that's got to go to the liquor store for a pack of cigarettes and you never see him again. And he was a traveling nurse, and he worked with an agent that would find him a job as in his profession in another city. And he wouldn't tell you he was going. You would just come home and he wouldn't be there because he had done all that preparation behind your back. So he was leaving Los Angeles, and he was going to go to Vegas. And I didn't know this. So before he went and had a facelift. And I just like, why do you need a facelift? Just didn't make sense. Why would you spend $5,000 on a facelift? Just, you're not that old, blah, blah, blah. All those arguments. So when I went to pick him up after his little procedure, I was talking to the doctor, and I said, yeah, well, George works over at Cedars. And he goes, he says, yeah, he told me he quit that job. And I said, what? He what? Yeah, he said he quit that job. He's going to Vegas. Well, I didn't know this. So, I had two options. I could have, because he didn't take anything with him. He didn't take his wallet. He didn't take any keys. He was just a nobody in a recovery room at a plastic surgeon's office. And I could have just gone home and, he's their problem. But no, I stuck around, and I took him home. And the first thing I said to him is, you're going to Vegas? No, I told you I was going to Vegas. Now the big gaslight comes. Gaslighting. Yeah, I told you I was going. I told you I was going. No, you never told me that. Yeah, I told you all about it. I told you. Yeah. And after a while of this, you start thinking you're losing your mind. Did you really tell me that? I mean, did you? No. So he had made arrangements. He had a van that, he had converted into his little, his little home. And he had a motorcycle. He had a Triumph 200 cc's or something, this big rocket. And he had made arrangements with the U-Haul place for a trailer to pull it all the way to Vegas from Los Angeles. Of course, they set you up with a place to live. I mean, it's easy life. And adios. That was it. That's all she wrote. So I was supposed to come home from work, and he would be vanished. He would be gone. And that's when I realized I needed to, that's when I started going to Al-Anon, and then he came back, and, he was just back and forth for a while. But by the end, it was like, I was throwing his clothes out the door. I was just happy to see him go. So he moved on to, went back to South Carolina, and that was all she wrote. But then I told the ladies in the Al-Anon meeting, I'm just trying to figure out how come I keep picking the same people in my life, and they sent me to ACA. So now I see why I keep picking the same people. That I do what I know. So you got to learn how to not know it. Don't do that no more. So I'm very happy here with ACA. So that's all I got.
Perfect timing, Linda.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you.